Good morning, Crypto Nation. Today is Monday, August 22nd, and we have a new day with new information coming online. Let's bring our guests, Tamp and Greg, onto the stream. Good morning, guys. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning, MetaFam.
What did you guys do this weekend? Any highlights out there?
Man, I'm back in Texas for about a week, and all of a sudden I turned bitch made. I got all kind of congestion from cedar or something going on, but my brother's 40th birthday, we had a blast.
Absolutely.
Good morning, Lord. Good morning, Keith. Good morning, Peterbot.
Good morning.
Is Peterbot a bot? We'll find out soon enough. So we have an interesting show for you guys today. We have U.S. lawmakers sending a letter out to the top 4 mining facilities, mining organizations in the country, asking questions, and we will review that. But we also have what the subject started with BlackRock last week, and believe it or not, it all ties in together. So we're going to delve into that. But let's start with where we're at with Bitcoin. Let me share the screen.
Weekend shenanigans.
Yes, ma'am.
They're always there.
It keeps us on our toes. But otherwise, who would invest in Bitcoin if it's not exciting? So here's what we're seeing over the weekend. Of course, we saw on Friday how it broke out of the channel. It's been following it. Once we break these channels to the downside, the next steps usually are either we hit where the run up began, or continue on down to the next levels of support. So of course we have the weekly support is the next target I see, where we could see a little bit of a bounce, or we just continue moving down, and I don't see any other support levels until the high time frame monthly support, which is 13,800, more or less $14,000. Now, keep in mind, yes,
sorry. There's 2 weekly supports there. Which one are you looking at?
So the one we bounced off originally is, good question, by the way, Greg. Thank you. Is the weekly support at 19,300 is where we bounced off of the last time. So we may see it tap that one more time, bounce, or just plow right through it to the next level, which is 17,124 is where we wicked down and had a doji. Dragonfly doji, which usually shows a reversal. Now, Bitcoin could also surprise us where it just runs right back into the channel and challenges the 50-day moving average. In this case, we're looking at the 3-day chart. But this is where we're at today on this Monday morning. Now, I did want to highlight one interesting thing. This rally actually was led by Ethereum. If you look at Ethereum on the same 3-day chart, Ethereum actually bounced and hit the 50 moving average on this chart. Once it started retracing, then Bitcoin followed. So that's an interesting fact to look at today, just where for once now we see Ethereum, because of the merge that's going on, leading the way during this time period until it finally merges in September. Now, getting back to the primary subject today, and that, of course, MetaFi, we are in the mining business and game. So this letter was sent by U.S. lawmakers on August 17th, 2022. And you'll see they sent an inquiry, questions, and they sent it to the top 4 mining organizations in U.S. We have Core Scientific, Riot, and Marathon and Stronhold receiving these letters. And here's what the House Committee on Energy and Commerce are looking at. They want to know about their energy usage and how each company is mitigating those impacts, and what steps are being taken to ensure their operations do not strain the energy grid or undermine our nation's climate goals. That's a long word for ESG. So here's the big question, though. okay, where are we going with this inquiry? One of
Well, what
the
did they want to know?
it's a great question, Tam. And here's
How much
here,
energy did they use?
here we go.
First and foremost, how much did they use in 2021? Where are they getting the energy from? What sources? How much of it is renewal? What's the energy mix overall? What are they doing to offset that energy use with renewable energy credits? How many days did they curtail their operations in the last year to support grid stability? And that right there is a big one in Texas, right? Especially out of all of them,
Riot.
where you see most of the requests for that. But that's due to the structure of the grid in Texas, period, versus say North Carolina.
Yep.
Yeah. Or
And
Duke
Riot
Energy.
is in a little city called College Station, or right outside. I think they're in Rockdale.
Rockdale, yes,
Close to
just north.
Rockdale, close to College Station, just north of Houston.
Mhm. Absolutely. And these are typical questions we have to look at as Medify. And Greg has quite a bit of experience answering these for internal use, consumption. Well, it's interesting that the government wants to see the answers on a public level. Now, the big question is why? Why are we doing this? Why is the government looking into this? So do you really think Core Scientific, Marathon, Riot, and Stronghold aren't ready for those questions or Medify? They've been working towards these goals since the very beginning. The House Committee on Energy and Commerce will be pleasantly surprised, is our bet. The good news here is that the leaders in the US in mining are actually paving the way for legislation down the road. And that's part of, we're going to ride on those coattails and build upon it towards the future once they have these responses. Now, last week we mentioned BlackRock input into this industry. And we'll drop the links to all of these references, but BlackRock released a BlackRock Bitcoin Private Trust release for investors, institutional investors, and also not the general population can participate in this, but they're looking at three things actually. One is the fact that Bitcoin, they're looking for spot Bitcoin investments. Everyone else that's been in here are in futures, which is overly leveraged. They want to, so a lot of people, so in terms of the risk involved with futures is there's a lot of wipeouts. You're not actually investing in spot Bitcoin. BlackRock wants to get involved in spot Bitcoin and thus got involved with Coinbase to build this bridge and have Coinbase work with their Aladdin system to do the custodial and other functions for these institutions. Now, you can see they are really leaning towards the Bitcoin above all other assets. They see that Bitcoin maintains close to 50% of the industry's market capitalization. Here's an interesting aspect of this, and which relates to the lawmaker letter that came out. BlackRock has encouraged that organizations such as RMI and Energy Web are developing programs to bring greater transparency to sustainable energy usage in Bitcoin mining. And they're going to follow progress with it. So if you follow this link right here, it brings you to Energy Web's subject, Climate Safe Crypto. Energy Web and RMI unveiled decarbonization approach for electricity intensive industries. And this has everything to do with what Alain Contreras just said, ESG.
Right. It's painting a narrative, right? I mean, it's painting a narrative that the government wants to set to the general public, which is, we're still early. A big chunk of the population does not understand Bitcoin. Maybe they've heard of it, maybe they haven't, but the government is starting a narrative that proof of work Bitcoin especially, is energy inefficient. It is bad for the environment. It contributes to global warming. When study after study comes out showing that ASICs don't use any more, energy usage than the average household dryer, right? So dryer is good, mining bad. We can tell right now that logic is not going to win out here. So let's paint the narrative that the government wants to paint. Now it looks like mining, then, just like somebody said in the comments, ESG. Now they're going to start pushing miners. What does this mean? Instead of plugging directly into the grid, if you can use flare-offs from oil fields, like some miners are doing, if you can use methane from landfills, as some miners are looking into doing, if you can use renewables like solar or wind, like we're looking into with Metafy and other companies are doing as well, if you can fill these holes, now it looks like the government is all of a sudden on board with Bitcoin, right? Like, Greg, what does that mean? Once the government gets the narrative that they want out there, I mean, what does that mean? All of a sudden Bitcoin is good now and we'll see politicians buying it up and other people buying it up because Bitcoin is now great?
I think you're going to have a greater adoption across the U.S., right? The U.S., we're behind anyways. Seems like we're always behind on a lot of tech stuff, but we're behind already. But data centers have already went through this, right? And a mining operation is no different than a data center. It's the same exact thing. It's just a different purpose behind the usage, right? So if you look at any of Google, Apple, DXC, any of these data centers, they're ginormous and huge energy suckers, huge. They go through the same thing when they're trying to select sites. They're selecting sites based on where they think least resistance is to having somebody, doing a petition in front about how horrible they are to the environment and whatnot. What I think is not talked about enough, right, is how a lot of miners are set up on these renewable credits and curtailment efforts of load shedding, right? They're using power off the grid that's sitting there. It's not like they're straining the grid even more. They're using capacity that's already there, that's being unused. And when they need it, cool, they shut off the miners and they let the grid have it, which actually stabilizes the grid. So stabilizing the network stabilizes the grid. That looks like a win-win to me all day long.
Absolutely. Right. And that's a fantastic point. And Greg, because like you and I, we went up to a power summit up in Pittsburgh just recently, and we saw how Susquehanna power plant, my apologies if I mentioned it incorrectly, they are mining Bitcoin with the excess energy that they are producing at the nuclear power plant. So imagine this, before it'd just be wasted. It was just not consumed at all. With Bitcoin, they've placed the mining behind the retail side. So now any excess is actually consumed. There is no more waste of energy, which also stabilizes the network, just as you all mentioned, Greg. So that aspect of it, including all of the other ones Tam brought up, literally give you the efficiency rate of power consumption rises quite a bit. And it gives imagine minting an asset with your excess power. That's where you start seeing organizations, institutions like BlackRock. Remember, they weren't interested in Bitcoin for a while. Now, all of a sudden, we see all of these announcements coming out there where they're leveraging, they see the opportunity. And now with Congress asking these questions, you clearly see what's happening on a macro level. Congress asked these questions on August 17th. BlackRock released this announcement on August 11th. So you see the stars aligning in favor of Bitcoin. And what a coincidence. They're now tying in ESG to Bitcoin mining. They're querying the largest 4 organizations out there. In the case of Medify, we have a partnership with Duke Energy, who has quite a bit of renewable energy tied into the grid. And we're looking at solar. We're looking at everything out there, so we become fully green. So it's not a dirty industry at all. It's actually encouraging development within the industry. And here's the play, and this is the interesting part. As you see Bitcoin looking for the bottom, as we are today, this is the opportunity for organizations or institutions like these to now build, start opening up the doors for their institutional investors and qualified investors to start buying spot Bitcoin. BlackRock's play, though, is pretty intelligent in terms of grabbing organizations like RMI and Energy Web to validate the ESG compliance of Bitcoin mining. So now, me as an institutional, I can go out to my audience and my pool of investors, private equity, and tell them, hey, we are not buying blood diamonds or blood Bitcoin, dirty Bitcoin. Here's the organizations that comply, and here's the report coming out of Energy Web and RMI to show you this is clean Bitcoin. Guys, please look at the grand scheme of things. Everything's lining up at this very moment, while everyone else who does not understand, they're just looking at Bitcoin, the price. That's it. They don't understand. That's the importance, like you always highlight, Tam, of reading the white paper, understanding what Bitcoin does, and then having people and community members like Greg who understand the energy consumption and the grid and how we're leveraging it for a clean Bitcoin. So the future is pretty bright, guys. So don't let the price fool you. Look at it as a discount opportunity to buy towards the future. And here we go. Sorry, guys. By the way, Brad is out in Puerto Rico. He's online with us regardless. So, Brad.
He's on a catamaran somewhere, living life, having a great time.
So, we're getting my feet under myself.
Well, we do that. Greg, I think you had the 4 main questions that the government asked the mining companies that are currently running. You had an issue with one of the questions, and I don't blame you one bit. But what question did you have the issue with? Because what does this have to do with mining?
Here, let me bring up
my question to it is, or my answer to that question is, what is your profit per megawatt hour profit at each of the cryptocurrency mining facilities, right? I have an issue with that. I can't tell you my profit unless I actually sell my coin. So profit is determined on the price of coin at time of sale, right? What was the average cost per megawatt hour? I think that's a valid question. I wonder, leading down the road, do they try to come up with something that maybe standardizes that rate across the nation? And if you're a crypto mining, here is your, cost per megawatt hour. Maybe they're going to do that, or maybe they're trying to drive.
Hold on. I want to make sure I understand that, because if I understand what you just said correctly, because I'm not the mining expert, do you think the government would then regulate how much companies can mine, because they're going to put a number on the amount of energy you can pull, similar to where you go to certain places that can only pour 1 ounce of alcohol at a time for a customer? They regulate that by putting the little ball stoppers on top of your liquor bottles. So when they pour, you only get 1 ounce of alcohol. That's all you're allowed to do. So are they, essentially maybe setting up to do that, where your miners can only pull X amount of wattage of energy? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Maybe not so much how much you can have, but what the cost of that is, right? And then, of course, it's the government, right? So, how much? Maybe we add some tax over here, right? And how can we collect our little bit of change in the jar
right.
by looking at it I mean, these are all questions that could basically go to any type of regulation they want to put in, and try. I know that it's not possible to do it across the board because you had deregulated and regulated utilities, across the nation, right? But it's something they could try to drive some type of standardization to.
Yeah, but
Yes.
that's the one question you didn't like. The rest of the questions you were good with.
I'm
as
okay
far
with,
as,
right? I think it's really important to know what the energy mix is. I think I think the answers out of it will be actually surprising to the committee, that they're going to see the mix that's already there. It's not the vampire to the energy grid that they think it is, and maybe it is in other countries, right? I think you're going to see how diverse and how much is offset already. And this is just going to kind of reinforce it. So I feel like that's going to be good news for mining across the board.
Yes, we're actually seeing requests to Medify on deploying up to 1 gigawatt worth of energy for mining specifically. So, and it's quite an intelligent move, because they're able to now, all you would need in that instance is acreage to build this in with communication, internet. So how do you bring it remotely? Well, you could do it through satellite, and it's profitable enough where you could have that flow. Worst case scenario, and let's say everything folds, you still have that asset of 1 gigawatt where you can resell it back. So it's de-risking the energy grid, really. And
that's actually a great point, because me, again, just letting my brain go wild. What do you do with these companies who have invested and nonetheless copyrighted and trademarked certain ESG processes, right? Like, you don't just walk up to a landfill and plug in your Bitcoin miner, and all of a sudden it starts powering the miner. There's processes that have to be put in place in order to convert the methane or the gas flare off or the solar energy into something that can actually power your ASICs. So what happens when the government says, hey, you can only use this amount of energy, or you have to get your power from this renewable source? And these companies that are currently doing that, Medify included, we're kind of eyeballing some solar stuff. When they say you have to use it this way, well, I'm sorry, we own the copyright on that. We own the trademark on that already. Now what? Now do they come to Medify and say, well, now you have to sell it to all these other people? Or do they say, you don't own that the way you thought anymore, and we're taking it and we're going to, give it to everybody else who wants to mine? What does the future look like for that?
We're looking to the future, really, Tam. So
it's interesting, right? First mover advantage.
Absolutely. And that's part of the build that we're doing. And as a community, as you well know, all you DCTV OGs, if you're involved in it, this is not a competition of everyone coming out. Of course, once an institution gets in, now that patent you're mentioning, Tamp, comes into play, because whoever owns the patent pretty much can collect the royalties that come from that idea.
Right.
And it's, on a side note, you'll notice, or if you do your research, you'll see that Bank of America, whom you do not hear too much regarding Bitcoin, they have a team developing for blockchain, and they have quite a few patents submitted. So it tells you that blockchain is here to stay, and the grandpappy, which is Bitcoin, is here to stay also, with BlackRock and the government now getting involved. And like Lord Fenrir mentioned, oversight for regulatory action is literally what's going on with this play. And BlackRock is getting ahead of it to act and be ready for it with its alliance with Coinbase, etc. Now, on a little side note, you do your own research, though, is you will notice how BlackRock is using institutions like, or organization like Energy Web. Energy Web is actually a blockchain involved with the ESG certification, and they are highly active in Europe, and they've been involved with Google since last year on developing solutions for blockchain. Now, one of the things I wanted to share with everyone is here is Energy Web token. So EWT is the token. You can get it on KuCoin, or if you go to CoinMarketCap, you can see where you can purchase it. But you'll see August 11th is when BlackRock announced this, and you'll see the pump.
Yeah, just a little pump.
A slight one. So it doesn't mean anything, guys. Just your own research. No. So you see the industry moving in that direction. Now, on the coming back, I know our time is running short. We have 5 minutes. I do want to emphasize, welcome everyone to tomorrow's stream. We will be posting the details. Please join us on our socials. So if you click, we put it on the first quote up there. Let me share the screen. If you
in the comment section?
Yes, ma'am. On the comment sections, or if you go to the metafy.co/social, it'll bring you to everywhere we are on. So you can follow us on Discord, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, TikTok, you name it. We're in there. Follow us on your favorite platform, and please join the discussion. Discord is where we have our community. Metafy is in there, and also in Katina, I do not see here, which is our Bitcoin.pub 2.0. Nope. All right, we will update that, so you have that. All the Bitcoin.pub OGs can jump in and join the conversation with us. I know
community.katina.1.
Community.katina.1 is where you can Katina 1. This is the Bitcoin.pub 2.0, everyone. Come and join the conversation with us. We'd love to get you involved. And we are back. And we have quite a few OGs on the stream itself. You will see people like Miami S. Kitchens, who's been involved from back in the day, joining us. We have, of course, David Perlmutter, who is with Brad and Own the Chaos. So we're bringing everything together, guys. Welcome
Don
aboard.
Fron.
Don Fron is in there.
Don's in there.
There you go.
Hey, these regulations there that we were talking about with the miners, is it for all proof of work coins? So today, including Ethereum, or are we only talking about Bitcoin that they wanted to know about?
They're focusing. So BlackRock on their statement stated that they're focusing on Bitcoin because it maintains. So it says, excluding stable coins, Bitcoin maintains close to 50% of the industry's market capitalization. But I'm sure whatever happens to Bitcoin will just roll down to everybody else below that as market cap on the mining aspect of it. But you see, like JP Morgan investing into Ethereum solutions. And then you see the entire industry, like data centers, involved with Ethereum and other solutions out there. So anything proof of work will fall under these regulatory provisions or supervision.
Yep.
Right, guys?
I like it. I think the future is bright for mining. Regulated, but bright. It's good because, I mean, the Wild West is fun, but regulation allows institutional investors to come in. It allows corporations to stick their toe in the water. And that's what we really need. That we need that big, old, new corporate money that's, waiting on the sidelines, so to speak. So I think this regulation it's a good start. I agree with Greg. You don't need to know how much I make per megawatt hour, and that's all dependent on Bitcoin's price. But I like it. I like it. One step at a time to out of the Wild West and into some civilized mining.
Absolutely, it was fun though.
An hour we'll be bitching because it'll be overregulated.
Yeah, the pendulum will swing, guys. So
always.
This is the time. We're still early in this whole industry, so get involved. Get in here. Let's build together, everyone.
I think that
cheers to
that goes back to something that we heard when we were up in Pittsburgh at that meeting, right? We were actually talking with lawmakers that were presenting there, and the biggest thing that they came out with was they're not knowledgeable enough on crypto as a whole, crypto and Bitcoin as a whole. So do you really want people that aren't educated enough making the laws and regulations behind it, right? So it's if you're passionate about it, you're knowledgeable about it, feel free to reach out to your local lawmakers and have a discussion and try to see where their mind is at on it, because it's coming, and you much rather have them make an informed decision than something we got to live with later on that doesn't work.
It's a great point. It's a great point, Greg.
Phenomenal point. And also, there's miners almost in every state out there. Get a hold of your local miners, speak to them. And if they won't speak to you, well, Medify will speak to you. So reach out to us. We'll take care. Fully transparent. That's what blockchain's all about. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. It was a phenomenal stream today. And
Quick 30 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, looking forward to tomorrow already.
We'll be announcing. Have a great one, everyone.
Happy Monday, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.